Hello, everyone. Right now, we are focusing on who killed Emily Pike, what happened to the 14-year-old. This is our first ever live episode of Arizona Crime Uncovered. I am Ashley Holden, and joining me to talk about this, to cover the facts of the case, is investigator Nicole Grigg. And we wanted to do this because we really wanted to get those basic facts out there. We've had so many questions and comments about this case, and we've been watching those. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this. But it's also a very, very important case. And at this time right now, there aren't suspects. This is still an ongoing investigation. And that is one of the other reasons why we wanted to do this. We actually have Nicole, who is working on a story today that's going to air a little bit later on ABC 15. We have been in communication with the Gila County Sheriff's Office even today. And Nicole, you're working on some of those things.
Yeah, so I think first off, the Gila County Sheriff's Office just updating us in the last hour. We are told there are still no suspects, no investigative leads. So they are really hoping that people call in anything that they may have seen. I was told somebody knows something, maybe even more than what they realize. So the Gila County Sheriff's Office really asking for anyone to call in if they think they may have seen Emily, if they think they might have any information. They are saying that right now they need some of that puzzle. So that's what they're hoping for. Now, today at 6 o'clock, we are actually speaking with lawmakers. They have called a hearing at the state capitol. It will be in the coming weeks where they will start to look into group home regulations and circumstances around Emily Pike and leaving her Mesa group home. This will kind of be the first time publicly where we might start to hear some answers about what happened and kind of the circumstances around the group home.
Yeah. And we're working on that. We wanted to get you kind of the newest information on what we're working on our end. But I do want to kind of break down what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're going to have the basic information on the case, what we know, information on the group home, information from those police reports. We've heard a lot of conversation about those 30 missing persons reports coming from that group home over a span of 3 years. And then we're going to talk about our visit to San Carlos Apache tribal land, which Nicole and I did, their response, tribal leadership's response. And then also we're going to take a really hard look at the investigation and, again, what we know so far. So we're going to break that down because I have people who ask me all the time, is the FBI involved? What is going on? So we want to get all of those facts out there. But first, let's begin with just some basic information. So Emily Pike was 14 years old. She was a member of the San Carlos Apache tribe. She was living in a Mesa group home when she was reported missing, and that was on January 27th of this year. She was found on Valentine's Day off the US 60, about 20 minutes northeast of Globe, and that was near milepost 277. Now, we've been told by the Gila County Sheriff's Office that her remains were found by people that were walking in the area, that those people called it in. We also have been told, and we know from police reports, that a few days later, the Bureau of Indian Affairs actually contacted Mesa Police saying they thought they might have a match for that person, the teen who was reported missing. That was Emily. We were told that they officially identified Emily as of February 26th. Now, we know from Emily's family that Emily was a teenager who loved art. She loved animals. She's described as soft-spoken, but also funny and helpful to her family. Her family is calling her a symbol, and we have seen so many vigils, not only here in the Valley, in Arizona, but in other states as well. And I've been reminded on social media that her story has reached not just all over the country, but all over the world as well. So I want to bring back in Nicole because we want to talk about the group home. And I know you helped with records into the group home, and we know, a little bit of details about that. You talk about the upcoming hearing, but what we know so far, we know that this was operated by Sacred Journey, Inc., this group home. So talk a little bit about what we know so far about that licensing inquiry and things like that.
Yeah, so DCS, who oversees, the group homes. First off, we know that Emily Pike was placed in a group home by Tribal Social Services on from her home tribe. Now, Sacred Journey Inc. is in Mesa. That is where she was placed. DCS has now opened a licensing inquiry into the group home. So we do not have those results yet. We do not know how long that will take, but they have provided us information that they have opened that. State lawmakers are now calling for this hearing to bring in tribal leaders. The group homeowners will be invited, as well as other key players here will be brought in along with DCS, and questions are going to be asked about the group home, around the circumstances. We know that Mesa Police had 30 missing reports from children. We know that some of those were habitual runaways. We know that this involves 18 kids. So there's a lot of questions around this. So Ashley, we know that this hearing, I actually just learned the hearing should be in about 2 weeks. It will be an open hearing to the public where we will start to be able to hear some of these questions as to why was Emily placed here? Maybe some answers as far as what were the circumstances? Why was she placed off the reservation? We know that the San Carlos Apache Reservation, they have a group home, but it is not, it cannot handle, a large number of children. So they are placed off the reservation. So now the tribal chairman tells me, they are looking at possibly investing in a group home off of the reservation if children are sent off tribal land, so they can make sure that their children are still safe. They are also looking at other ways to try and expand resources and expand their own group home on the reservation.
Yeah. I've seen so many comments online, telling us, hey, look into the group home. Are you looking into the group home? And I do want to let you know that, we did get a response from DCS, and we want to let you know that this licensing inquiry is a standard process to look into the actions by the group home. And at this time, the department does not believe any action taken or not taken by the group home caused the terrible outcome of this case. That's what we were told by a spokesperson. But of course, we've put in records requests, and we are, of course, looking into this as well. And I also want to let you know, people have been asking, are investigators, are people talking to the group home or things like that? And I know that the Gila County Sheriff's Office has told us that were talking to people that were living around Emily, and so that would include people at the group home. So obviously this investigation is still ongoing, and we also want to talk about those police reports that we have been kind of alluding to. ABC 15 requested all those police reports, the 30 missing persons reports. And I want to note again that that was over a 3-year period. And we were told by police that there's only one outstanding case from those reports that we were given. And we want to start with the report that involved Emily from January of this year. And we want to give you some information about that and break that down for you. So we know that she was reported missing by her group home manager, and that was in the evening around 8 on January 27th. She left through her bedroom window. That's what the group home manager thought. It looked like the screen had been pushed out from the inside. And there was an official missing bulletin that was put out on January 29th. We also know that there was a voicemail that the group home reported to police that they received from an unknown woman in early February saying Emily was with her mom on San Carlos Apache tribal land. They did follow up on that. Her case manager with Tribal Social Services followed up on that, had talked to her mom. Her mom appeared very concerned and said that she had not had contact with her daughter. We also know, and this is kind of where Nicole has done a lot of reporting, that Emily went missing 3 other times, and this was in 2023. So when we talk about this, we're still looking into that 15-month period in between those 2023 reports and what happened in January 2025. Now, all 3 of those 2023 reports, Emily, it was her, or at one point she went missing with another child. They told police that they didn't want to go back to the group home, and we've done reporting on that as well. So let's go through some of those reports. Nicole, we know that you've done a lot of reporting on that.
Yeah, so we're going to break it down by the other times that we know she went missing. So the first time Emily was reported missing was back on September 11th of 2023. So the reports show that on that day she left with another girl. Now they did not want to go back. They told police, according to this police report, they said that they had to scrub the walls, baseboards, window seals, and clean the grout. So then 9 days later, she ran away again. This time, according to those reports, Emily told police that she did not want to go back to the group home because it makes her uncomfortable when the staff gets into arguments with other girls. And then there was a third time on Halloween. She walked away, but then she returned on her own about an hour later. So I kind of mentioned, Ashley, there were 30 reports that Mesa's investigated, and that involves 18 kids. So some of them were habitual runaways. And we know that this can happen. So, like you said, what's unclear though is what happened in that 15 months from October 2023 until January of this year, which is, when she ran away for a fourth time. And then her body was found nearly 100 miles away off of US 60 near Globe. Important to emphasize there's still no arrests. Police are still asking for help for, a missing piece of the puzzle. So there are no arrests at this time. And that's why we're doing this, to make sure that her case is being heard and shared, to make sure that, as so many are saying in the comments, justice for Emily Pike.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to let you know we have someone who's monitoring our comments right now. So if you have questions throughout, you can feel free to ask those questions. We're going to be looking at them and we're going to try our best to answer them. Of course, as I've said, this is an ongoing investigation. So we don't have all the answers, but what we're doing is doing our best to talk to the agencies involved, to request records, and if there are questions from people, we're going to try our best to get those answered. Now, of course, there's other things that we don't know. Again, you talked about the hearing. There hopefully will be some answers on how Emily came to be placed in that group home and things like that. I do want to say, when it came to those other missing persons reports, those other children, it did show that kids repeatedly were sneaking out of windows. Some would go to school and not return, and as you said, some were habitual runaways. So we want to point that out as well. I do want to go on and talk about, Nicole's talked a little bit about the tribal leadership response. San Carlos Apache tribal leaders, as well as some of Emily's family, they invited us back. We went to Bylis because that's where the Pike family in particular lives and is from. And so we went back there. We were talking to tribal leadership and some of Emily's family. And so we were appreciative that they invited us back and had some of these conversations. We know that they are commissioning an independent study, the tribal council. And even this week, we saw that they were meeting with lawmakers down at the Capitol. So I do want to go back and say, we asked about group homes and what they have on tribal lands, and they said that they really only have a group home that serves around a dozen kids. They're looking at expansion, looking at some of those possibilities, but they think that would likely cost millions. So, those are all conversations that are taking place. I know one of the biggest things that people ask me is DCS. Obviously, we know that Emily was in the care of Tribal Social Services. That was who her case manager was with. But when it comes to DCS, they did have a state contract with this group home. So I want to make sure that kind of relationship is clear when it comes to this case in particular. So there's a lot of conversation taking place. Nicole's going to have a story about that hearing coming up. Also at the Capitol level, we're looking at that kind of Amber Alert style bill. So House Bill 2281, that still needs a full vote in the Senate. And that would create kind of that emergency alert when there is someone, an Indigenous person who is missing. So we're going to continue to follow that House bill. And I do want to say, I said Emily's family has called her a symbol. And we have talked about the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And like Emily's family has talked about, and like we have seen, so many vigils around the country, and also so many stories. And when you talk to Emily's family, they say, let's get justice for Emily, but let's also pay attention to all of these other people that either went missing or they were murdered and maybe their cases weren't looked at. So that is very, very, very important to talk about as well.
Well, Ashley, and just really quick on that topic, if people didn't see, the Department of Justice like just announced within the past few days that they will be sending more agents, FBI agents, to Arizona and a number of other cities, and they are going to rotate through and they are going to come and look at these cases. I think it's Operation Not Forgotten. And they're going to be looking at some of these cases on tribal land, on reservations, to make sure that there's eyes on them. And so that's going to be happening. I think one agent is already here. Is our story that we just did. So back to Emily Pike, though. Again, justice for Emily Pike that is the movement that is happening right now, and it's important to know that authorities are asking for tips. Authorities still need help. Earlier this week, we were out near off of US 60. Volunteers have led a grassroots effort to continue to search for Emily's remains. So part of her remains were found back on Valentine's Day, but they are still looking. So these volunteer-led groups were out there earlier this week. We are told that they have been back every day since. When we went out to Vilas and we visited Emily's side of the family, her father's side of the family, we did learn a lot from tribal leadership and how important it is to find those additional remains. They Ashley, were talking about how important it is because they want to make sure that Emily can reach her final journey. And so this is important. The mother, Emily Pike's mother, shared the search efforts and wanting people to, she appreciates people searching right now because, it's so important for them to find those remains so she can be laid to rest and bring her peace and an entire community.
Yeah. And I want to get to that investigation and what is playing out because we're out there with the search. Who killed Emily Pike? That is the question that so many people are asking, and they want justice for Emily. I want to let you know, here are the agencies because I get this question all the time. Is the FBI involved? Because Gila County Sheriff's Office, they are the ones that are leading this case, but the FBI is involved. There is a task force. FBI, BIA, San Carlos Apache Police, Mesa Police, they are all involved in this investigation. And we have been talking about community members, volunteers who have been out searching for the rest of Emily's remains. And we do know that there is a reward of $75,000 that is being offered by the San Carlos Apache tribe. And so we want to remind people of that. As Nicole said at the beginning, the Gila County Sheriff's Office believes someone out there knows something. If it was something weird that you saw, if you thought you saw something, but you thought maybe, call it in. That is what they are asking. I also have had questions a lot about video, looking at video, and we have asked those questions. We put the Sheriff's Office answers on our Facebook page. We are not going to stop covering this case. It is so important, and Nicole and I are part of a team here at ABC 15 that is covering this case. And I want to look and see, before we wrap up, if we have any kind of questions. I know that someone asked, do these group homes have cameras? I know from police reports that the group home does have some cameras in certain places, but they thought that sometimes when kids go out the window, there might not be cameras that all the time catch them. But we have been in contact with agencies talking to them about that aspect of this case. And if anyone has questions, we are monitoring it and looking at this, and we're going to continue to. So if you're going to be able to watch this in its full format, YouTube, Facebook, we have it on our Instagram as well. And then let us know if you like this format, if there's other information that you want. We're going to be monitoring those comments and doing our best to answer them as we go. So let us know. And we just appreciate so much people have shared this, and we want to get you those facts and any questions you have. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. We're going to hang tight for just a few seconds, see if any more questions pop up, wrap this up. And we have, if you go to either Nicole or my Facebook page or social media, we have a lot more posted. We have also a web article up with just the basics of the case, so you can go look there. But the most important thing is, if you have a tip, call that in, and we have all the information to do that on our website. And Nicole, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Well, I was just going to say really quick that the sheriff's office, someone just asked if they were searching phone locations of everyone who was in the facilities that day she became missing. I can tell you that the sheriff's office did tell us this week that they are waiting on certain data. They did not say what type of data, but they are waiting on data and speaking with people who are giving them information, and they're hoping to find a person of interest soon. So that's what we know about data, whether it's cell phone data. We don't know, but that is important that they said that they are waiting on data. The Gila County Sheriff's Office is waiting on that. And reminder, $75,000 reward. Hopefully people will soon continue to share information to find who did this.
Okay, thank you guys for joining us for this live episode of Arizona Crime Uncovered. We will see you soon and keep you updated.